Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, it's your host. We're now starting a new series which is dedicated to recovery. That's right, recovery from the cluster B monster relationship. You're still alive, you're still pretty, you're still smart, you just have a big deficit inside, at least it feels that way, because you've escaped the clutches of the cluster B creature. Well, this particular series, which doesn't have a name yet, will be focusing on the aspects of recovery from such an event. Because the average person will not get it. You know that it's a very important thing. It's very significant to your life. Because, after all, you've just spent all this time with a fraud. You've just now discovered that you were being led down a faulty, fictitious path, and now you're about to be free. Hopefully you've already become free. But I thought I would once again reference our favorite, Thomas Sheridan, to see what he has to say about such things. His Chapter 9 title is Empathy is Recovery. And here's his take on it. And again, it's paraphrased, not plagiarized. Thomas tells us, so here we are. We have reached the doorway to the labyrinth of this creature, and the liberating rays of restorative sunlight are bursting through the mouth of the tunnel, and they're beckoning you towards the salvation and inner peace you have longed for. The dark inner center of the creature's maze is now far behind you, and the demon lurking in the shadows can no longer pull you back inside. You are now free to walk the final few steps to liberation. However, winning this war is one thing, winning the peace is another. Thomas Sheridan is telling you that you've survived this labyrinth, and on the way you've learned a lot about the pathology of these types of creatures, along with the control and methodology of the creature's mindset. Your graduation is complete. Now it's time to go to work on the next stage of your development, the new you. But you must remain vigilant that you are not hauled back into the abyss. He mentions something which I've covered in other places. Think about the creature for a moment. The creature that you were involved with, what does it do? Not that that matters as far as what you're going to do, but you think, well, what's this creature done? This creature has committed a form of persona suicide when they decided that you were surplus to their requirements. Most people in this situation are simply shocked and bewildered at how this creature they have known for all these years is speaking to them and demonstrating the body language of a complete stranger. Yet the creature can at any point in the future restore or reanimate this dead persona inside them if needed. They implement a kind of Lazarus rising from the tomb, whereby the old persona they used to work you may once again be required. Now, think about that. Is that normal? No. But it happens. I've been there with those that you get to the point where you feel like, oh, this is never going to go anywhere, and then all of a sudden the sweet thing comes back, which they call the sweet mean cycle, and you think, oh, I knew this person was there still, and it's fake. It takes a long time to realize, though, that it was fake, because you're desperate to think that anything mean was just an exception, and that the nice was the real, but that's one of the lessons we have to learn when dealing with these creatures. He also states that as a former victim, or / target, you must not fall for this repugnant undead routine, meaning the sweet, loving person you met at first that turned into a devil all of a sudden starts acting like the sweet, innocent thing again. Don't fall for it the second time. Sheridan tells us the way that you fully accomplish this, which is not falling for their fake game again, is taking the time to examine your own heart in order to ascertain what parts of yourself that you may have felt were missing, that this creature hooked into for their hold upon your soul. Gently stated, you must be willing to change, to grow and discover how complete you are in yourself, and accept that relationships should enhance your experience rather than fill some empty part of you that you think is missing. Now, the creature you were involved with committed this persona suicide when they declare you to be obsolete. So why should you, the target/victim, continue to deal with this creature as if it was still alive? They're dead. We have to accept the fact the person's dead. Think of them as a dead and buried person. And then we go back to the previous video I did, no contact ever again, is the key to attaining this state. Even if you have to deal with them via co-parenting your children, you must consider that this creature is a ghost and not a living person. Which sounds difficult, but actually I've lived through that, because you can see it usually. When you watch them in action with their next target, you can see a little bit of yourself in the new target. It's best to step aside, not say a word, but just think about it, thinking, I'm better off without that. The other one will be coming to me later, begging for advice, but I wouldn't push it until that happens. Now, Sheridan tells us that one lady wrote to him and told him that she made herself imagine that she was smelling the odor of death whenever she was around her psychopathic ex when he came to collect the children. She said that after a while, the creature became increasingly less arrogant and smug around her, eventually acting unsettled and perturbed. Ultimately, he gave up and left the country without informing anyone, and hasn't been heard of since. These creatures know when your energy is no longer available to them, and, scared this may rub off on others around you, they many times will make a run for it, to search for a new source of emotional energy to feed on, and decent souls they can manipulate and exploit. The reality is their inevitable crash into oblivion comes another step closer. They still don't get why, if they had been kind, considerate, and empathetic, they may have avoided their social and economic decay. It's always somebody else's fault, not theirs, right to the very last breath, exiting their dying corpses. Sheridan tells us next that you must look after yourself. People in relationships with these creatures often have repressed immune systems. One of the things victims or targets notice is that after they've overcome the mental trauma, they suddenly feel healthier than they have before in years. Their overall health is actually slowly improving, while their mental and intellectual facilities return with a vengeance. Not just your body is restoring itself, but your mental health is being rejuvenated too. It's almost like your brain is akin to a falsely convicted criminal prisoner who's being pardoned and released from jail. Your intellect in the post-creature abusive manipulated state seems sharper, more innovative, and fired up. All the intellectual abilities which the creature nullified in you over time in order to mind control you more efficiently suddenly come back. Targets of psychopath creatures are usually not even aware of how unhealthy they were until they're finally out of it. They're finally clear of this creature. Common mysterious conditions which survivors find themselves recovering from include itching skin with rashes, lethargy, which is being tired all the time, irregular bowel movements, hypervigilance, nightmares, sleep disturbances, anxiety, fatigue, abdominal pain, lack of ambition, trouble concentrating, impaired memory, asthma, low self-esteem, and self-loathing. And then confusion is the next section. Many people have been deeply affected by their time in this labyrinth to a greater degree than they initially suspected. This is indicative of how little attention they've been paying to themselves while under their influence of this creature. The people who survive these creatures many times convey to others a sense of feeling that their life energy and a large portion of their soul has been taken by this creature. This is very real, and anybody who says it isn't is either very lucky to have never have been near one of these creatures, or is a creature themselves. They are also denying basic underlying principle of the universe. Everything is energy, and every kind of evolution from the grand cosmic scale to the most microscopic single-celled organism is all energy interacting with other forms of energy, creating novelty and new trajectories of development. Your own personal, psychological, and spiritual growth works exactly in the same way. Sheridan tells us that we're all made up of energy. That and consciousness is all we are. Quantum physics, the science underlying this fact, remains the most intensely tested and retested of all scientific principles. The evidence is beyond doubt that we are all pure energy, and the material world is a manifested interpretation of subatomic particles from which we form our worldview. This includes the creature who comes into our lives. We've created our connection to them, and we can't uncreate it. That's how powerful we are. This is the crux and the underlying message of this book, Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. The good news he tells us is, he says, we have to come to terms with whatever need existed in our worldview and in our psychological, emotional, and spiritual makeup that convinced us that we were somehow incomplete as souls, thus attracting this type of creature into our lives. The good news, he tells us, is in understanding and coming to terms with these aspects of psychology and spiritual nature, we can successfully overcome the after effects of this horrifying experience. But even more importantly, you'll become immune to all of these creatures because of our own hard-won awareness of what they are and how they function in society. Isn't that the best news of all? Well, yes, as long as you can detect if that's what you come across in the future, because many of these creatures are very, very sneaky and disguising. Once we understand the rules of this game, we're no longer pawns. We are the kings and queens of the chessboard, and the creature will literally just leave the game. Checkmate.
I am the Narcopath, and sadly to say, I was bound. I tried to escape from here, and that goddamn TJ found me. Turns out he's got the whole place under surveillance, so I'm back to give you more confessions. So I hope you're ready. I love doing this for you.
Now, I must admit, I'd rather this topic didn't come up. I'm sure you're wondering, so maybe it'll get me out of here sooner. I know that there was a lot of confusion about the level of sexual activity we used to partake in. If you noticed, before I discarded you, we had the most sex ever. Remember those afternoons that I flashed you my teeth and encouraged you to invite me over, and I came, pun intended? Oh, I'm here to talk to you about that just a little, because I can't help but notice that people were telling me that you couldn't believe that I could have done all that with you, and then immediately discarded you.
Upon hearing this, I can't help but wonder, based on one of my friends, quite frankly, I don't have emotions, at least not like you. What I understood is that it really bothered you because to you think that if sex is being had, that indicates a level of closeness. Well, the fact of the matter is, you were just a bonus at that time. I was already flirting with my new lover during that time. All it meant for me was I'd get you inside of this Virginia, and then a few minutes later, I'd get my new one inside this Virginia. It's all fair as far as I'm concerned. But someone told me that it really bothered you about how I could have just been with you and then 30 minutes later was with my newest. Well, honey, I don't view sex the same way you do. For me, it's a recreational activity. It has nothing to do with feelings or emotions. I ain't got that crap. But I can pretend to. Oh, I feel so strongly for you. Remember that face and that look? I got that from a goddamn movie.
And I know, shortly before I discarded you, I remember you asked, why did I keep seeing you for all those months when I had revealed to you that, honey, I couldn't stand you. I was miserable with you, as a matter of fact. And you had the nerve to ask, well, then why did I keep seeing you? Well, honey, that's easy. Targets are hard to come by on some occasions. And whatever it was about me, I knew you were there to stay. Whether it was my teeth, my Virginia that's tight, or whatever, I just knew that you'd come back for more. So I just pretended to be in love with you. Because after all I wanted was a regular screw. That's all you were. I needed you as a regular screw to remind me of how desirable I am. Because having a regular screw proved that to me. I just did what I had to do to keep you around. That's the way it works. I didn't have any feelings. I don't even know who I am myself. So do you think I have room in this brain of mine to figure out who you are? I don't think so. All I needed was my Virginia service. In order to get that, the price for admission was I had to pretend to be in love with you. It worked, didn't it? That's all that matters.
I am the narcopath. Mm-hmm.
Hi, honey. I know I've said a lot of things I really didn't mean. I was thinking about you lately, wondered if you wanted to get together. I really miss you. And I know you miss me. I know you miss me blind. Yes, you do. Don't you want to kiss me again? Come on. Tell me you don't want to kiss this face.